Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a brand new YouTube video. In today's video we're going to be talking about hyperlapses, how to shoot them, how to post, what the post work I do on them, and doing a bit of travelling around London. So, you may be wondering, what is a hyperlapse? Now, if you don't know what a time-lapse is, you're going to find it very hard to actually know what a hyperlapse is. Now, I'm here in Trafalgar Square. I've just filmed a couple of time-lapses and hyperlapses to show you the difference. So a time-lapse is when the camera is actually stationary and you're just filming time pass, and then you're going to speed that up. Now, there's two ways you can do that. Most people who really want it quick and easy, they just film a piece of video and then speed that piece of video up. You should be really shooting them as with your intervalometer. So if you're shooting Nikon, you have some, in most cases, built into your camera. If not, you can buy controllers that you can plug into your camera and they'll remotely trigger the shot a certain number of times per second. I've done videos on this talking about this. I'll link them in the description down below, and also on a card just here. But a hyperlapse is a moving version of a time-lapse. So a time-lapse is just the passing of time sped up and shown of a specific subject, and a hyperlapse is that with movement of the camera as well as the movement going around in general. So we're going to go to our next location, and then we'll talk about how to shoot a hyperlapse, and then talk about my post-production process. So there's two ways you can shoot a hyperlapse. One, I would say, gives a more desirable look than the other, but it is harder to shoot. So if you're just getting into hyperlapse photography, I would recommend that you go with the second option that I'm going to go over in a moment. So you can shoot with a monopod, and then that allows you to be able to drag your shot. And now the problem is with that is you're going to have to actually be able to hold your camera still for the time the shot is open. So if you have a 1 second shot, you're going to have to hold your camera still for 1 second. If not, and you just want to start getting used to the technique, I would recommend shooting handheld, and basically you can just put your shutter really quick. So, and then you do the following process. So you find a line on the ground. It doesn't have to be a straight line, but it needs to be a line or something you can follow. And then you find your subject. So in this case, the one I just did was Westminster Abbey, which is just behind me. And then you walk that line and you see if there's anything you're going to walk into or anything you need to be aware of. Second thing is then walk back to your starting position, set up your intervalometer for 4 seconds or however many seconds you're going to be using, and then you get it ready. So you have in your viewfinder you have your grid, so you can line up part of your subject, so in this case the center of the abbey itself with the center of my frame on my viewfinder. So when I've lined that up, I make sure my intervalometer is ready to go, I press OK, and then I wait for the shutter to trigger, and then I wait for the image to finish taking so I can see the image again in my viewfinder. Then I take a step, walk forward, wait for the image to take again, and repeat this process until I get to my end point. This gives the illusion of you locking onto a subject, tracking that subject, and then moving backwards or away from it or around it if it's orbit. I would say the better look is if you are able to drag your shutter in this, because it will remove the distractions such as this truck here from your frame and allows you just to focus on your subject a lot more. So this is something that I'm trying to push myself now to as a hyperlapse photographer. I'm trying to shoot more with longer shutter, so 1 second or more, because it gives a nicer look. So you got that motion blur and it just removes people or cars or etc. any other distractions from your image. We're going to go to our next location now, and then we're going to talk about my post-production process when filming hyperlapses specifically. ready and shot, and you want to start actually getting them ready to actually be posted, the first thing I do when I get home is I drop my files onto my computer. I make sure to organize them into raw and final, and just to make sure that they are organized and I can find them if I ever need to in the short term or the long term. So if someone says, oh, do you have any hyperlapses of St. Paul's Cathedral, for example, that we're at right now, and could you send them over? I'll be like, yeah, sure, let me just find them in the file. So that's where you need to keep them organized and make sure you know exactly where everything is. Next step, you want to go into and import those into LR Timelaps. I'm not going to go over the entire workflow of LR Timelaps in this video. If you'd like to see a complete video on LR Timelaps just on its own, let me know in the comment section down below. And then I put them through the work process of LR Timelapse. This is mainly for Holy Grail time-lapsing. I mainly use it, but it also allows you to smooth out some exposure changes if there was any weird light changes or anything else, and also allows you to de-flicker your footage just that little bit more. So after you've done that and you have some beautiful exported out images, and they're all beautiful and color corrected and they are looking fabulous, but the video itself is very shaky. So what you want to do is you want to bring those completed images into your stabilizing software. In this case, I will be using After Effects, and I'll be teaching you how to do it in After Effects. So it's really, really simple and really, really easy. So basically what you want to do is you want to find a point of reference, preferably the point of reference that you shot from. So in turn, just going back to the shooting method, try and shoot for the edit and try to give them a point. So for example, if I was going to shoot the St. Paul's Cathedral, I would try and make my point about there and use that as my stabilization point. So I'm going to make sure I'm going to take every single frame and every single photograph, and I'm then going to make sure that I try and line up the track point icon to the same place on the position in every single frame, and then I apply that data and then I watch it back just to see if that position moves at all. If it moves a little bit, it's alright, it's not a problem. You can get rid of those very small minor issues with a little bit of warp stabilizer after the rotation, which is what we're going to be going over next. So next thing you want to do is you want to bring it down into a new composition. You want to bring it into then do a rotation stabilization. So you want to go to the tracker, go down to stabilize motion, and then click on rotation. De-click the position keyframe, so you have 2 points of interest that you need to line up. Now you want to make sure this is on a line of some description. So for example, if I was going to do the St. Paul's Cathedral, I would use this line just here, and then you will be able to use that line and do the same thing, just manually try all the way through each frame by frame by frame by frame by frame as you go through, and then you will be able to have a less wobbly scene. Now if you're still not 100% happy with it, you can throw warp stabilizer on it then afterwards as well. Sometimes I bring the comp size down before putting warp stabilization on it. It really depends on what I'm going to do, and really depends on how I like the hyperlapse or not. So keep that in mind. But the thing is with warp stabilization, sometimes it will just warp completely out of your scene. So you'll have like a really smooth movement, and then something in the foreground will throw off the track, and it will go all warpy and jello-y and horrible. So try to avoid it in most cases if you can get away with it, and shooting them, try and shoot them a little bit more stable as much as you can. And that's going to be my as complete up-to-date hyperlapse shooting guide, shooting tutorial ideas, just talking about how I shoot hyperlapses and my workflow in that respect. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to be subscribed, and I'll see you in the next video.